There will be copies of the slides available. I think they're on your seat. Feel free to use them. If you want any copies of our policies, I'll give you my card. We're more than happy to share that information with you. It's not secret. It's not rocket science. A lot of this boils down to just good common sense when you're dealing with accidents. So a little bit about us. We've been in business since 1956. I know some people in here have met our owner, Cheryl Smith. Wonderful individual, innovator in EMS, and it's a pleasure to work for her. Our service area is about 9,000 square miles, so that's like the state of New Jersey, so we cover north to south Jersey and northern Arizona. We're about an hour and a half north of the Phoenix area. Population size, 221,000, 25 ambulances, and about 200 employees. And we have 4 really unique service areas within our system. One is far up north. It covers 4,500 square miles, but it's our least busiest, but it's Williams, Arizona, and it actually snows in Arizona. I think a lot of people always think Arizona is just Phoenix. We have a wonderful service area. So take a second and just read this. And this really is the function of what risk analysis is about. And I think oftentimes people do things with risk and they're afraid to embrace it. And you make mistakes or you don't identify something and it leads to bigger incidents. Turning a blind eye when it comes to risk management is the worst thing anyone can do in your organization. There are bad things, and I'll show some of the drive cam again, that you're going to see on the tools that you use in your organization. It's okay to see that. If you do customer service surveys, and in my next talk we're going to talk a little bit about customer service, you're going to get some bad things, and that's okay. But you want to do things with that information. You don't want to just put it by the side and just pretend, because you're missing opportunities, loss of business, or even a fatality involved in that. And that's something when it comes to accidents, there's a high risk in our industry. And this, I just updated this prior to coming here, but almost every week you see a fatal ambulance accident. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the statistics and how the information just isn't readily available. But just Google search ambulance crash or ambulance, and I guarantee almost every day you'll see some type of incident, and probably about once a week you'll see a fatality, whether it's a provider or it's a patient. We're the good guys. We're supposed to help people, yet we're killing ourselves and we're killing our patients. And that's something that we have to take very serious in our organizations. So vehicles that we're in, pretty unique vehicles. They're large, they're constructed. They don't really have a lot of unique safety devices in them, although some of the newer vehicles that are out there, they're certainly leaning that way. You see more European design in our vehicles, which is important. But the reality of it is they're dangerous vehicles. There's modifications, you're forward-facing, you're side-facing, the patient's in the back, you're not belted in, you got objects in the back of the ambulance that may or may not be secured. So when you're involved in an incident, there's a lot of things that start to move within that vehicle that become projectiles and ultimately can cause serious injury. And this is the thing. Anyone heard of Dr. Nadine Levick or listened to any one of her presentations? She's a great individual. She's extremely passionate about this information. I pulled some of her statistics here because she really is the only one who really gets good information. There's databases out there, but they're just not updated, whether they're in the state or the federal side of it. But look at high crash fatality rates per mile when compared to similar sized vehicles. And statistically, for medium-sized fleets, I think it's about one serious collision catastrophic about every 1,000,000 miles on average is what the statistics will tell you. For larger trucking companies, a little more than that. For smaller fleets, a little less. But again, one fatality per week. And again, if you just go out and search the internet, you're going to see this. And it's eventually going to catch up to you if you're not taking a proactive approach to dealing with people operating your vehicles. So this is some of the best data. There was a report that came out about a month ago that had some 2012 data in it. It was kind of half year. I think the Fire Association put it together. It really did image this. But from 1990 to 2009, 590 fatalities. And in 2009, 29 crashes, fatal outcomes. 16 were operating in emergency mode. But I think this is the bigger number here. Of the 29 crashes, 35 fatalities, and nearly 50% of those were non-crew members. Again, we're the good guys. We're going out there. We're trying to help our patients. We wind up killing a patient. We wind up killing an innocent bystander when we're operating a vehicle. If anyone has any questions while I'm working through this, please feel free to just raise your hand, or if you want clarification on something. It's a small group, so we have that ability to kind of make it a little bit more intimate. So some crash statistics, obviously emergency mode is a big one. Intersections are huge points of impact. And again, those in the patient compartment are more susceptible to injuries versus the front driver, the emergency vehicle operator, because they're in the actual design vehicle component. So it's a Ford or a Dodge or a Chevy, but it has airbags, it has safety restraint system, it's going to crumble. It's the aftermarket modification that's really the most dangerous part of the vehicle. Due regard, I just think this is something that we don't do a good job in our industry of emphasizing to our employees. I think we do a good job trying to train our employees. We send them to emergency vehicle operator courses. We train them in-house. We do annual refreshers. But we don't really explain that responsibility of what they're doing when they're operating the vehicle and the importance of that. And taking that definition and making it applicable to an emergency vehicle and what they're doing when they're operating that vehicle in the public's eye. And what it means to your providers is it's responsibility of both the emergency vehicle operator and the passenger to operate that vehicle safely. How many times, how many people are paramedics or worked in the field? Okay, and what did we oftentimes do back in the day? You're filling your chart out, or you're not looking. Both people have to be responsible for the operation of that vehicle. That is really important. Just because the paramedic is preparing for that call, as they're operating in that mode, they should be sharing information, looking, double checking, keeping an eye, keeping the vision of the vehicle out there in case the operator doesn't see something, they're a backup to it. But if they drift off and not paying attention or get sidetracked with something, it's a recipe for disaster possibly. We know speed doesn't save lives, and the bottom line is the law gives you some privileges, but it doesn't exempt you from breaking the law. And that's really the key. Just because you're able to operate lights and sirens doesn't mean that you can go out there and operate recklessly. You still have to abide by the law. And more oftentimes, we're seeing ambulance or emergency vehicle operators cited for collisions or are getting in trouble on the legal side of it because the way the system is today. So they're not exempt from it. The court's going to look at it a lot differently. And by no means, I'm not a lawyer, but this is just information from speaking with people and taking classes. These are some questions that the court's going to start to ask when you're involved in an emergency vehicle accident. They want to know, A, was it necessary to operate in that mode? Did they have all their warning devices on? Was the driver trained? When was the last time they got that training? Little things that are going to start to put bullet holes in your defense that if you don't have a good driving program in place, it's more difficult to start to defend these questions when you're the one trying to explain to the attorneys and being deposed why or why not this information was done. So again, questions just to keep in mind, there's a heck of a lot more out there. Certainly a lot of organizations have counsel. Speak to them, reach out to them. They're